Prime Minister Johnson has always described the easing of corona measures in Great Britain as cautious but irreversible. Omicron is now thwarting his plans. Parts of Plan B and thus more stringent measures will be faced by the population. And Denmark also reacts. So, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced that the corona measures in England will be tightened. He said, "It has become increasingly clear that Omicron is spreading much faster than the Delta variant." The Conservative head of government said this at a press conference called at short notice in Downing Street in London. In Great Britain, according to Johnson, 568 Omicron cases have already been confirmed by genome sequencing. The real number is probably much higher and is currently doubling every 2 to 3 days, the Prime Minister continued. According to government experts, Omicron could be responsible for the majority of new infections in the UK in just a few weeks. The measures include the request to work from home, a mask requirement for theatres and other events, as well as the requirement to present proof of immunity or a negative test result when entering major events and nightclubs. The regulations should gradually come into force in the course of the coming week. Well, Johnson actually wanted to avoid a return to corona measures after their almost complete lifting on so-called Freedom Day on July 19th. The Tory politician had always described the gradual easing as cautious but irreversible, as I said. However, he later created a backdoor with the so-called Plan B. The government had already taken smaller steps, such as the reintroduction of mask requirements in shops and public transport. However, there was considerable opposition from Johnson's Conservative Party to tougher measures. The introduction of Plan B, or parts of it, now comes at a sensitive time. Johnson's credibility is being challenged more than usual over reports of an employee Christmas party during the lockdown last year at the government headquarters on Downing Street. There are therefore doubts as to whether there is still sufficient willingness among the population to obey the instructions of the government, even if the government doesn't hold them up themselves. And in the meantime, Denmark is also reintroducing stricter restrictions. The Christmas holidays for school children will be extended, the nightlife will be restricted, and the Home Office will be increasingly used, as the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen announced. The health authorities had previously reported a new daily high in new infections. Great Britain is tightening its measures significantly in view of the even higher corona numbers. I talked about this. The mask requirement applies to public events, for example, in theatres and cinemas from Friday. And as of Monday, employees should, if possible, work from home. By reducing your contacts in the workplace, you are slowing down the transmission, said British Prime Minister Boris Johnson at the press conference. Admission to bars and clubs, as well as to many public events, is only possible with a 2G proof. According to Johnson, this will primarily affect places where large crowds come together. For indoor events, this applies to 500 people or more, and to outdoor areas from 5,000 people. Football games and stadiums, for example, are affected here. According to Johnson, 2 vaccinations should be enough to be considered as fully vaccinated. However, only 3 vaccinations could soon apply as entry requirements if there are enough booster vaccinations available. The background to the stricter measures is also the increasing spread of the corona variant Omicron. The government's chief health advisor, Professor Chris Whitty, said, "Omicron is rising incredibly fast. The goal now is to slow the rise. Omicron can quickly develop from very small numbers of cases to very large numbers." Health Minister Sajid Javid said, "By the end of this month, infections could exceed 1 million. This is based on an analysis by the British Health Authority. The experts expect the number of Omicron cases to double within 2 to 3 days. Boris Johnson said that as soon as it became clear that booster vaccinations could stop the Omicron variant, Britain would be able to relax again, although German scientists are not very fond of that one. 568 Omicron cases, as I said, have already been confirmed, and the numbers are probably higher. The UK had previously reintroduced minor measures. As I said, the mask requirement in buses and trains, we never stopped those, by the way. And well, maybe Johnson wanted more, but we know the Conservative Party and we know some hardliners there. I talk enough about Brexit to know these people. And now he will have a lot of trouble there, and not to mention the Christmas party again. But the Omicron variant of the coronavirus was detected for the first time at the beginning of November and has since reached dozens of countries. Now comes good news from vaccine manufacturer BioNTech, though. The vaccine manufacturer BioNTech expects a vaccine adapted to the Omicron variant of the coronavirus by the end of March. BioNTech and its US partner Pfizer announced this week in a press release. In addition, a third dose of the existing Comirnaty vaccine should be able to neutralize the new variant. Preliminary laboratory studies showed that 2 doses had significantly lower neutralization titers against Omicron. According to BioNTech Pfizer, however, 3 doses of the vaccine could neutralize the variant. The data also showed that a third dose increased neutralizing antibody titers 25-fold compared to 2 doses. These initial data suggest that the booster vaccination can still offer adequate protection against a disease of any severity caused by the Omicron variant, said BioNTech boss Ugur Sahin. The Omicron variant, which was first discovered in South Africa and is now spreading worldwide, has triggered an alarm. Scientists were particularly concerned about the high number of mutations in the virus spike protein. Initial studies from South Africa and Germany on immune protection against the Omicron variant showed a 40-fold reduction in the neutralizing effect of antibodies. In order to examine the effect of a vaccine against a certain variant of SARS-CoV-2, researchers usually do so-called neutralization tests. It is checked how many antibodies a vaccinated person has in the blood that can bind to the virus variant and thus switch it off. The actual protection of vaccinated persons cannot be determined with this, however. Clinical studies with thousands of test persons or evaluations of the ongoing infection processes are required. And there are studies like this I mentioned in the laboratories that suggest as well that the vaccines are not working as well against Omicron as they do against the Delta variant. But that's why BioNTech Pfizer is also bringing up a new variant of the vaccination. But the point is, a third vaccination, so the so-called booster vaccination, is working better than just having 2 shots, or jabs, as you call it. And here in Germany, in a bit contrary to the UK at the moment, our vaccination has kind of a time limit. Our new government wants to put a 6-month limit on the vaccinations, and when you can call yourself vaccinated. After 6 months, you either get a new vaccination or you're not under the 2G people anymore. And the other point is, I'm having my booster vaccination within the next 2 weeks, and then I have got another 6 months there. But there are still a lot of people who are not getting vaccinated with a lot of kind of weird reasons. But I still want to talk about that a little bit, because one thing most of the anti-vaxxers bring up is when we get infected, we are not risk groups. There will not be a severe cause of the infection. Well, I'll be fine when I get infected. Well, in many cases this is true. I got infected very early in the pandemic when there was no vaccine available. Today I wish I was vaccinated that time, because the infection was not a big deal. I had to stay at home. Okay, boring, but I had to work anyway, and I'm working from home, so I just couldn't leave the house for shopping, or meeting someone was not a big thing that time anyway. And I had a little bit of coughing, that's it. Nothing, really nothing serious. It wasn't even that annoying. But months later, the hit came, because those people always forget one thing. Even if the infection is not a severe case for you, the chance is high that you get long COVID. And I have my personal experience with that one. It comes months after the infection when you think, okay, everything is fine, and suddenly makes switch. In my case, that there are a lot of different cases, but a lot are similar, but some have more severe cases. Mine is not that severe, it's just annoying to be honest. You get, like in my case, muscle weakness. That means I was going to the gym daily in the past. And now it is as if I never have made any sports in my life. And it will take time to get that back. I lost 1 liter of lung volume months after the infection, and you can work that out as well. Other people have some problems with their hearts and stuff like that. It's much more severe than in my case, and I can be lucky, but it's still something that's not easy, because my muscles behave as if I never had done any sports. And I just want to bring you one example. When I built this shelf last weekend, when I redid my studio, I usually would have done a whole flat myself. I moved several times and no problem with building all that stuff. But after building this one bookshelf, my muscles, even if I did that very slowly, my muscles were shaking for an hour as if I've run a marathon or God knows what. Because they are so weak now that I never experienced something in my life, not even in my time in the military when they brought me completely to exhaustion. Just from building one bookshelf, my whole body was shaking. And that should give you a little hint of what it means to have long COVID. I just want to have any compassion or whatever about this. I will live that through in a few years. I will get through that. But there are far more serious cases than in my case. And they suffer much more with their lungs than I do. They will suffer much more with their muscles than I do. And a lot of people have even brain damage from long COVID. They have memory losses. They have heart diseases from that. And that's what you have to keep in mind. It's not just, I get infected, have to stay at home for 2 weeks, and nothing will happen anyway. No, something really serious can happen, and it happens to a lot of people. And I just want to talk about this because I'm one of them. Okay. I still I always want to put it that way. I don't want any compassion or whatever. It just happened. I have to live through it. Okay. I am dealing with that every day, and you don't want that. And you are now at the point in time where you can prevent that. I couldn't have prevented that because there was no vaccine when I got infected. But that's why I got vaccinated as soon as it was possible for my age group, as soon as I could. And I can only suggest, protect yourself, and more especially protect other people from getting infected by getting vaccinated. And if you are vaccinated, go get your booster jabs. All of this is important to save lives, to save people from a lot of medical trouble, and to end this pandemic. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.